So, a little bit of a sciencey one again. Are magnets like a kind of physical analogue of the kind of thing that Leibniz might call a substance, a created substance, or a monad? Well, let's just have a think about it. Substances, they have to have parts, according to Leibniz. They have to have parts, or else they wouldn't exist. Not parts. They have to have, they're simple, so they don't have parts, but they have to have properties, or they wouldn't exist, because nothing can exist unless it's got a property, according to Leibniz. So, magnets, well, they've got properties because, you know, if I've got a whole load of magnets here all strung together, but you just got to imagine, well, this, you don't have to imagine it, this is now one magnet, all right, that's now one magnet. It's got properties because it has a north and a south. You know, that's two faces, and I can tell you that's a real property because I can't force these two things together. That's two poles that are the same, that are kind of repelling one another, and the other end the same, two poles that are the same, repelling one another, and then a north and a south, and bingo, they come together. So they've definitely got properties, but do they have parts? So, well, let's think. Here's a whole magnet. If it's got parts, I should be able to break it into bits of a magnet, shouldn't I? So if I snap it in half like that, I should end up with one north and one south, a north part of a magnet and a south part of a magnet. But that's not what happens, because as we just saw, you break it in half and you get two whole magnets. So when you break a magnet in half, instead of getting two half magnets, you get two whole magnets. And then you can repeat the process over and over again. You break this one down, that's one whole magnet, break that in half. Now what have you got? You haven't got two half magnets, you've got two whole magnets. So they've got properties, but they don't have parts. In a way, I think you could call that a kind of analogue for what Leibniz is talking about with his substances. And into the bargain, you can also take into account that, given that Leibniz has it that the best possible world is where the striving for existence of the created substances can reach a maximum of diversity with a minimum of laws. So the maximising the unity in diversity. So at the very least, a substance, although it's simple, if it has two opposing principles or properties that make it that whole that it is, without those properties being parts, then in a way that would be the best kind of building block for a unity in diversity, because it is a unity in diversity down to its very basic components. So everyone knows what the yin and the yang looks like. I don't have to do you a drawing of it, but if you think of the yin and the yang, it's inside a circle, and depending on what way the S goes through the middle, it could go that way, or it could go the opposite way, that way. So depending on what way that S goes, you've then got two things that are composed of two opposing properties that are distinct in terms of the way that S goes, mirror images of one another, and which also, as a whole, have two different rotations to them. Because if you think of the yin and the yang, if the tadpoles are kind of swimming, if the one's going that way and the other one's going that way, the whole rotation is kind of that way. And if the S goes the other way, then vice versa, it rolls the other way. So I think it's, I don't know, I mean, it seems a kind of nice analogy, a way of getting your head around at least what the basic nature of a simple substance would have to be. And it kind of relates to some of the stuff that the MFMP, the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Projects, are studying, as well as those little springy things, like these things that I had in the previous video. These things, the little vortices that both clockwise, anti-clockwise, that in a swimming pool meet in the middle somehow. But while they meet in the middle, they both rotate the same way, like that. So they can then form a whole circle, like in a smoke ring. And that soliton, what they call a ring soliton, is also part of what is being covered on the MFMP. So on the face of it, it would look like there could be a relationship between what's being covered there and looked at there and Leibniz's monadology. Might be something that just jogs a few brain cells of people that are a little bit more up to speed with the whole thing than I am. But anyway, there you go.